It's really funny. I was just having a think the other day about the first time I saw you guys play live. It was in 2007, and that was with in Brisbane with you playing with Decapitated at the time. Do you remember much from that tour? Just it was kind of nostalgic for me seeing you that time. So, do you remember that tour?
I sure do. I'll never forget that tour ever in the history of my life. Yeah. Not only was it a kick-ass metal tour, but I got really injured coming over on the flight over.
Okay, what happened?
Yeah. Well, I was in coach class and sitting in the middle between two football players.
Yeah,
and
wow.
I was so scrunched up that it actually took two of my vertebrae completely out of place. So by the time I landed in Australia 20 hours later, I had no use of my left arm. Two of my fingers were paralyzed. I had to play that tour on painkillers and unable to use two fingers of my left hand. It's, oh my God. I've seen videos of it afterwards, and I still don't know how exactly I did it.
Well, I thought you sounded great at the time.
The show must go on. Well, there you go. The show must go on. Metal will take place.
Yeah, there's actually, speaking of injuries, I kind of have a pretty crazy story that could have almost resulted badly in the name of Nile if this guy had gotten properly injured. But what happened was I was about 18, so at the time, I was really excited to see bands. So I used to always stand up the front rail way before the bands came on and try to hold my spot. I don't really do that anymore.
Right.
But anyway, it was me and there was probably a few other people up the front, and this one guy, just drunk as, he stands up on top of the rail and goes, "Oh, bro, catch me." And I'm like, no, don't jump from that. And he just jumps, missed me, lands on the ground, smacked his head against the ground. He was unconscious for about 20 or so seconds, and then he got up and the security guard pulled him outside and he left. I'm like, wow, that could have ended really badly. He could have broke his neck or something.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any injuries or anything like that happen to people in your show? No, like Randy Blythe from Lamb of God moments?
Yeah, I think every metal band has a few tales like that. I really, think that if you go to a metal show, you should have a reasonable expectation of being able to go to the show and enjoy the show and come home with all your limbs intact.
Oh, yeah.
So as much as I love people having fun and headbanging and moshing and doing whatever they want to do, I don't like to see anybody get hurt.
Yeah, do you ever get people jump up on the stage or do anything like that? I know it's pretty frowned upon since that Lamb of God show. Does that ever happen to you guys?
Well, of course it has over the years so many times, countless times. I try to discourage people from getting up on the stage as much as I can. As soon as I see them coming up, and you can tell who's coming up usually, unless they wait for you to look the other way. And I just go ahead and give them a gentle combat boot to help them realize that they should abandon that foolish notion of trying to climb on the stage.
Yeah.
Wow, that came out sounding so nice when it's actually, quite a vicious act, but it's all in the name of the show. We get a lot of sensitive gear on stage that, if it were to get broke, it's kind of a show ending kind of thing. Not only for the show that day, but until we can get our stuff fixed, it's the rest of the days on the tour. So one stupid act can sometimes have, all kinds of ridiculous, unforeseen consequences, especially if you're on tour, like, say, in Slovenia or Slovakia or, anywhere in the Eastern Bloc where you don't have access to get your gear fixed or to replace it. Pretty much fucked. Yeah,
it's
which
crazy.
Means that everyone that had bought a ticket for the show immediately following the show where whatever incident happened is also fucked. So I just try to discourage as much inappropriate stuff going on as far as the stage itself is concerned. People can do whatever they want to out in the audience, but the show just runs smoother and less stressful if the audience is where the audience is supposed to be, and the band stays where the band is supposed to be.
Yeah. You actually, you released 2 solo albums a little while ago, and I actually really love these albums. I still listen to them to this day, and it's just if I, want a relaxing day, if I want some music to read a book with, I always put on your Saurian exorcisms or meditation albums. I'm just wondering, how come you decided to do, a bit of a softer project, and do you think you'll ever do something like that again, like a sequel to one of those Saurian albums?
A lot of people have been asking me, when am I going to put out a follow-up to that project, do a third Saurian album. And it is something I'd like to do. And Nile keeps me incredibly busy. So far I just haven't had the necessary time. But it's something I really want to do because that music is very relaxing, not only to listen to, but to create as well.
Oh, yeah. And you're pretty influenced by the whole, I guess, Egyptian culture. When did this fascination arise?
Well, it was something I always had kind of an interest in, but after one day when I woke up and realized I was playing in a band called Nile, I asked myself, if I were playing in a band called Nile, or I were listening to one, as a listener, what would I expect to hear? And so that, answering that question kind of led me to decide that if I were going to write songs for a band called Nile, that I should probably start doing some research and, figuring out, what kind of topics to use. And of course, that meant, I embarked on, learning all kinds of stuff. And the more I learned and did research for the songs, the more I started really digging in and enjoying it. It turned into quite a hobby for me.
Yeah. And some of those Nile songs, they're so fast. I know you've had songs that have clocked in at 275 beats per minute. I mean, that's just insane speeds. How do you do a whole concert like that? Wouldn't your fingers just fry out after 5 minutes?
Yes, they do. Let me go kill my dog real quick.
Oh,
1 second.
No worries.
Thank you, sweetheart. Shut up, mother. Okay. It takes quite a bit of stamina to play music like that for an hour and a half. And there's a sort of conditioning. It's not the same conditioning as, say, a long-distance runner would have because you're playing music.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, but it's very similar. I mean, you got to, do it enough to where you build up the stamina to be able to do it and to be able to get your breath, while you're trying to sing that stuff and know how to pace yourself. It's in some senses, very relative to an athletic kind of experience.
Yeah, I know Jeff Hanneman from Slayer had arthritis in his hands in the last few years. I think he'd actually had it for quite a while, but I can definitely understand why. As a guitarist, I can play that sort of stuff, but I find after a while I just, want to play some mid-tempo stuff too, just to break it up a little. It's just so incredibly hard on your hands.
Well, there you go. Sometimes, like the first week or two of the tour, my wrists will be very sore when I wake up the next morning. But after, a couple weeks on tour doing it, then you get built back up into it.
Yeah. You guys have got some really hectic guitar solos. I know Cast Down the Heretic is just one that comes to mind. I'm just wondering, is some of your guitar solos, is it improvised, just doing Phrygian dominance just really fast, or is it kind of the same each time? It just sounds so erratic it almost sounds kind of like jazzy improvised almost.
Well, I definitely believe that it needs to sound chaotic. It needs to sound, from the heart. I hear a lot of, guitar hero guys playing solos that sound perfect and wonderful and incredible, but they've been pieced together in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
I like to do something, a little more a little more real, and try and capture the actual vibe and the spirit. So, yeah, it's not completely worked out, but usually I have like some strong ideas of where things could go, and it's not necessarily always the same scales or anything. I mean, that's really dependent. What scale and arpeggio and melodies you use are kind of dependent upon what's going on underneath them.
Yeah.
And that kind of like opens the door and may or may not give you enough creative liberty to, find something interesting.
And when you write, do you kind of come in with a few riffs, or do you and George and the rest of the band kind of all sit around together and just jam and see what comes out? Is there a procedure you do when you're writing an album?
Well, our drummer lives in Athens, Greece, so it kind of rules out the standard, good old-fashioned show up at the band room and, hey, I got a guitar riff. And the bass player goes, hey, I got a bass riff. And the drummer goes, hey, I got a drum thing. And then magically somehow something falls together. But we don't really work like that. Usually what we do is we'll write it at home and we'll record song demos. And that's like the jumping off point for the song. So by the time we actually do get together in the band room, we got a pretty good idea of where the songs are going to go.
Yeah. Does it make it difficult having a drummer that's in Greece? It would be quite expensive, I imagine, for travel and whatnot, wouldn't
it? Yeah. Yeah, it definitely makes, some things very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess when you got a drummer like George Calais, then you're going to want to do what you can to get him jamming with you, because he's one of the best, one of the fastest drummers out there.
Well, when we discovered George many years ago, before people ever knew who the fuck he was, we really believed in what he could do, and we're really happy that over the years, he's managed to grow and achieve recognition for what he does. We've always believed in him.
Yeah.
I remember when he first joined the band, right, and so many people were bashing him, because we had a couple of really good drummers before George, Tony Laureano, Peter Mora, Derek Roddy. And at first, there were a whole bunch of people didn't want to accept George, which I thought was ridiculous and very arbitrary and random. But over time, George has proven himself, and we're really happy to have him.
Yeah, and something he does, actually, a lot of the fast parts, I might be wrong, but he's actually just using one kick drum for certain parts, and it's still incredibly fast. Is that right?
Yes, we refer to it as the single foot blast. Where the right foot is hammering away at the kick drum, which has a different feel than when people do it with two bass drums. When you do it with two bass drums, it sounds a little more relaxed and free-flowing, but the one foot is just, a jackhammer, just fucking firing away mercilessly. And sometimes I think that's very called for. Sometimes you want that jackhammer expression.
Yeah, and does he use bass triggers or anything like that to get that sound? I know it's pretty common in, fast death metal bands. Is it all natural, or is there a bit of triggers involved too?
For live uses, he does use the triggers. In the studio, it's a combination approach. There's a microphone on it and a trigger, and the producer, somehow manages to get a good blend of what's going on. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And you guys are coming to Australia again this year, I believe. I don't have the tour dates in front of me, but you guys are coming soon, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We're really looking forward to coming this fall. We got some Australian dates.
Yep.
It looks like we're trying to add something in New Zealand. There's going to be a Bali Fest we're going to do about the same time. And I think we're going to continue on to Hong Kong, Beijing, and Thailand.
Yeah, and what can fans expect from the set list? I know you got a lot of albums to choose from now, like just so many, Prolific and lots of great albums. What can we expect, a bit of the greatest hits or anything new as well?
Well, we do have a new album coming out called What Should Not Be on Earth, so we're definitely going to be playing some new stuff. but also a selection of, classic songs that people have come to expect to hear from us. I mean, sort of a random sampling of all our greatest hits, if you will.
Yeah. And the new album, is it, is it kind of just like what fans would expect from a Nile album? Fast, hectic, chaotic, somewhat that Egyptian sound still coming through?
I think you could say that. I think that's definitely the vibe this time. This album is definitely made for our fans. It's, hopefully what people are expecting to hear from us. We definitely don't want to let our fans down. That's, our number one priority.
Yeah, I think I remember the first time I saw you, someone in the band got the shits because there was someone up the front that just kept yelling out, "Play Black Seeds of Vengeance," and I don't know if it was you or the other dude. He goes, "We didn't come all the way to Australia just to play that one song. We'll play it later, but we've still got plenty of other songs to get through."
Yeah, sometimes when people ask for the closing song prematurely,
Yeah.
we'll turn it into a joke. We'll say, all right, let's take a vote. Everybody that wants to hear Black Seeds now, so that we can play it now and then go home, raise your hands. And
Yeah.
no one raises their hands.
If they all raised their hands, would you go through with it and play it and piss off?
If it ever actually happened, I would hope that there were video cameras rolling because we would have to play along with each other. That would just be too much fun.
Yeah, definitely.
But then, of course, we'd come back out and play some more stuff. But, I mean, come on, that's probably not ever going to happen. I don't think audiences would call our bluff on that one. Not when you pay the kind of ticket prices that promoters are charging nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure people wouldn't call that bluff. But I'm sure if it was someone like Axl Rose, he'd be happy to walk off the stage after 2 songs.
Yeah, well, that's not us. If we're going to fly all the way across the fucking Pacific Ocean, we're doing it because we want to play metal.